Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for accepting my paper proposal on a theme of Portuguese archaeology common to other countries. So, the importance of fights and battles in the process of nation building. A building often based on individuals and events that have contributed significantly to the mythical construction of the nation. Individuals and events mostly associated with battles crucial in the process of identity building and independence. Significantly, the pictures we are seeing now are about battles against Roman dominion, especially because they allow justifying 19th century European national identities in face of Napoleonic power. And it was this same power that activated nationalisms legitimized by a pre-Roman or medieval ancestry. In this context, it is unsurprising that although displaying an image of strong national cohesion, Portugal regained themes emphasized by Romanticism. This was the case of the reconquest of the Iberian territories occupied by Arabs and the subsequent building of new Christian kingdoms. As a result, additional events have also been underlined, such as the various fights and battles fought with other Iberian kingdoms, as the one of Aljubarrota in August 14, 1385, where Portuguese troops, together with English allies, led by the Condestable Nuno Alves Pereira, fought victoriously against the Castilian troops and their allies, French. A battle that was also distinguished for the use of a medieval English military tactic that much contributed to the success of the Portuguese troops. A victory that prevented Portugal from being annexed by the Kingdom of Castile, while opened the way to the dynasty responsible for Portuguese discoveries. And that is also why the monastery of Battle was built as a tribute to the battle itself. Thus, it is understandable that this battle was reinforced in different types of narratives, included, for example, in school textbooks. It is, however, interesting that two specific episodes of this battle were most appreciated. The legend of the female baker from Aljubarrota, who alone would have killed several Castilians, and the role of the so-called Valentine's Wing, the original name of the group represented by young Portuguese nobles. Two episodes expressing the romanticism attributed to this battle throughout the ages as synonymous of altruism of popular and noble people. Ordinary and noble people. Two episodes which have been the subject of several publications, including infantile and juvenile. This explains the iconographic reinforcement of this battle since the mid-80s of the 19th century, though with more evidence during the totalitarian regime of Estado Novo, that is, new state. The reasons for this were several. As we don't have time to analyze all of them, we only mention that the importance of this battle in the Portuguese calendar was assumed by the First Republican regime after the end of World War I. In a Europe committed in reviving national heroes and glories, the nationalistic and conservative Nuno Alves Pereira crusade exulted with the beatification of its patron in 1918. It won thus a mythical hero capable of allying the nationalist feeling to the ultramontane religious enthusiasm when Catholics exasperated with the Republic anti-clericalism. A narrative underpinned during the military dictatorship established in 1926, followed by the new state from the mid-30s, when Oliveira Salazar linked the Portuguese victory in this battle to the Portuguese discoveries. However, Oliveira Salazar went further, appropriating the battle to legitimize central issues of his political agenda, including the foundation in 1936 of the so-called Portuguese Youth. This is also why he emphasized the youth of the Portuguese troops at Aljubarrota, obedient to its leader, the Condestable. In short, the Portuguese National Youth Organization should obey him blindly, becoming a special instrument of political national propaganda. It is true that August 14 was celebrated with different names, but it is also true that it was always celebrated as a connection between homeland and youth, as if it was her duty to build, establish and maintain the new homeland, or the new idea of homeland, a Christian homeland. Even so, and perhaps surprisingly, August 14 was never a holiday in Portugal. It was never a holiday, but was always celebrated with the support and presence of the highest individualities in the country under the sign of the Portuguese youth and of the Portuguese Legion, also founded in 1936, which chose for its flag the color of Aljubarrota's Valentine's wing. But one of the first highlights of this narrative took place during the Portuguese World Exhibition in summer 1940. The battle was especially underlined within it at a pavilion dedicated to the independence of the country. But where was archaeology in this context? One could expect to find it at the service of the new state political agenda. And it was really during the new state that the first archaeological excavation was carried out in battlefield. But who promoted it and why? In 1936, the new state re-established the Portuguese Academy of History with a general task of elaborating the official version of the history of the country. However, in 1950, the Army Commander-in-Chief asked the Military History Committee to elucidate long-standing historiographic disagreements over the Battle of Aljubarrota. A subcommittee established for this purpose argued that it was essential to undertake excavations at the battlefield in order to clarify some issues, including tactical ones, and more precisely, the eventual presence of wolf dens and trenches. The Lieutenant Colonel Afonso do Passo, who has long been devoted to archaeology in different regions of the country, was chosen to coordinate the fieldwork. He accepted without hesitation, not only because he was a military man and archaeologist, but because he believed it was his duty as archaeologist to collaborate with historians to build bridges with them and towards their work. However, the work began only in 1958. The reasons were certainly some. Still, one of them was the building, since the year before, in the area to be excavated, of a square for the activities carried out by the Portuguese youth each August the 14th, and where the statue, by the way, to Nuno Alves Pereira, was inaugurated in 1957. A political preference ironically criticized by Afonso do Passo in spite of supporting the ideology of the new state. But it was the building of this same square that accelerated the beginning of archaeological excavations, as it revealed structures linked to the battle as wolf dens and trenches. Fortunately, the Military History Committee asked the Minister of the Army to suspend all gardening work, and Afonso do Passo immediately requested technical support from Geological Service of Portugal. The archaeological work was carried on during a half a year, still using an old excavation technique, uncovering a large area of wolf dens and trenches, as well as human and horse bones. Furthermore, Afonso do Passo asked for the collaboration of specialists from other scientific areas so as to understand better the excavated materials, being one of the first attempts to build bridges between sciences within an archaeological project in Portugal. That is why he requested the contribution also of the National Agronomic Station to identify the seeds collected, of the Directorate General of Agricultural Services for soil analysis, and of the Institute of Anthropology from the University of Coimbra to examine the osteological remains. And it is quite interesting, his suggestion of re-examining this archaeological material in the future when the Institute of Archaeology could be able to use other methods of analysis. At the same time, the Minister of Army invited the Professor of Spanish and Director of Portuguese Studies at Oxford, Peter Russell, to visit the excavations in April 1959, in order to confirm the structures uncovered as to be related to the famous medieval English military tactic. What is more, he was asked to prepare a detailed written opinion upon the matter, which was essential in saving the battlefield. A Fuston further advised that the surrounding area should be explored with the support of the Army's cartographic service in order to enlarge the excavation perimeter. In the meanwhile, he presented ideas on the preservation and presentation of the site and materials, including the building of a small local museum as the one he visited at Trelleborg, Denmark. Apart from the apparent general political lack of interest towards this archaeological excavation, studies on the Battle of Aljubarrota persisted, as we can see by the various historical monographs, literary works and flyers being published for different types of readers. Even so, the battle was somehow forgotten during the first 10 to 15 years following the instauration of democracy in the country. What's more, in 1961, government authorized the building of the roadbed for the National Road No. 1, which passed through the western end of the battlefield. It was necessary to wait for the 80s, and thanks to the Portuguese Academy of History, that its study was recovered on the occasion of the battle's 6th centenary. In the 90s, the archaeologist and professor at the University of Coimbra, Helena Catarino, expanded the area of excavation in order to understand the dimension and construction of defensive structures, discovering a wide range of other wolf dens and trenches. A situation confirmed, at the beginning of the 20th century by the archaeologist Maria Antónia Amaral from the Portuguese Institute of Cultural Heritage. Shortly afterwards, in 2002, the Batalha de Aljubarrota Foundation was set up with private, not public, money to provide the basic conditions to welcome visitors to historical sites where has taken place some of the main battles of the history of Portugal. This would allow them to become important points of cultural tourism and subjects for historical and scientific studies. Thanks to protocols established with ministries, namely culture and education, regional directorates of culture, municipalities, army, tourism regions, private entities and the scientific community, as well as to the applications submitted to specific development cultural programs, the Foundation accomplishes its work plan. Enhancing the historic landscape of the battlefield starting in 2011 and inaugurating in 2008 the Interpretation Center of the Battle of Aljubarrota, visited by numerous local, regional and national schools as well as by other entities, in a process reinforced by the classification of the battlefield as national monument only by the end of 2010. Simultaneously, the Foundation promotes and supports other activities aimed at disseminating largely the history of the battle, as in the case of the movie Aljubarrota. Moreover, the Foundation finances scientific and educational activities, as well as historical recreations of the battle, which attracts always an increasing number of people and enables a greater engagement of locals, essential to the implementation pursuit of planned and future initiatives. So, in this way, the battle is somehow kept alive, not only thanks to the hands of historians, archaeologists, writers and artists, but also thanks to a foundation that has recognized its interest and promotes its history. This is perhaps a quite singular example when the archaeological remains of such an important historical episode only recently received due institutional attention. a situation is eventually understandable in a country like such as Portugal, where archaeology has never really been necessary for national statements, contrary to what happened and happens in other countries. And in the ideological framework of the new state, the Battle of Aljubarrota was important to emphasize the link between homeland, nationalism, youth, leadership and faith. As for the role played in it by the unity of ordinary people and nobility, the new state didn't care and even underestimated it. But these are specificities to be explored at another opportunity. Thank you very much for your attention.